My phone lit up with a notification I couldn't hear, but my body still felt it, you know what I mean. That little punch in your gut before you even unlock the screen. And when I did there, it was a shaky video of me in a restaurant booth under warm lights, smiling too politely at a guy who wouldn't even look at my face with a caption that said something like, "Taking a deaf girl on a date for $50 LOL." And in that moment, I realized the worst part wasn't the video. It was the fact that I wasn't surprised. Yeah, that happened. And if you think that's where the story ends, it's not because that night didn't finish the way they planned. It finished with someone stepping in like a storm and turning their little joke into the kind of public embarrassment you can't laugh off. And somehow it pushed me into a life I never thought I was allowed to have. I've been deaf since I was 17. I wasn't born this way. I lost my hearing after an illness that nearly killed me. And people love to tell you, "At least you're alive," like that sentence is a warm blanket. Like it makes up for the way your world turns into a silent movie where everyone else gets the audio, but you don't. And if you've never lived it, you don't realize how exhausting it is to constantly translate everything. Lips expressions tone you can't hear, but can still feel in the way people treat you. Because even without sound, you learn to recognize cruelty fast. It's in the smirk before the comment, the glance to their friend, the way they talk past you instead of to you. I taught myself lip reading out of pure necessity. I got good at it because the alternative was being invisible. And the weird downside of being good at it is you can't unsee what people say when they think you can't hear them. So you walk around with this constant awareness that the room has opinions about you, and you have front-row seats to all of them. By 25, I had built a decent little life. I did freelance graphic design from a tiny apartment in an arts district, exposed brick, big windows, a coffee shop downstairs that smelled like cinnamon. Every morning I had my best friend Candace, who learned sign language just to make life easier for me. And I had my brother Jerome, who loved me like a guard dog, but dating was the one area where I always felt like I was walking into traffic with a blindfold on. Some people treat you like you're fragile, like they need to slow down their mouths and pat your hand like you're a child. Other people treat you like you're a novelty, a dare, a story to tell later and after. Enough bad experiences, you stop expecting kindness. You start expecting awkward pity or worse. So when I matched with a guy named Derek on an app, and he actually messaged me like a normal human asking about my work, my favorite food, my dog, not my disability, just me, it felt like oxygen, and I told myself, it's one dinner, don't build it up, just go. He picked an Italian place downtown called Rosario's, warm lighting, soft music I couldn't hear, but could see in the way people's shoulders moved. The kind of restaurant where couples lean in close and laugh, and you can almost forget you're carrying scars. And when I walked in, I saw Derek right away sitting in a corner booth, like he owned the place, phone in his hand. Smirk on his face, and behind him, a table of guys, 4 of them. A little too focused, a little too synchronized, phones angled just slightly toward my booth. And my first instinct was to pretend I didn't notice, because that's what women learn to do. That's what disabled people learn to do. You swallow the discomfort, and you keep moving because you're tired of being the problem. I slid into the booth, smiled, gave him my best. This is totally normal energy, and he didn't stand, didn't meet my eyes, just nodded and looked at his phone like I was a pop-up ad. And for the next 20 minutes, I did all the work, typing questions on my phone, trying to read his lips, trying to make something out of nothing. And he gave me one-word answers, and that smirk kept creeping back like he was waiting for something. Then I saw it clear as day, because lip reading doesn't lie. One of the guys at the table behind him leaned toward his friend and mouthed, "How much did they pay you?" And the other guy mouthed back, $50, and my stomach dropped so hard I felt it in my knees, like the floor shifted under me, And then the first guy mouthed, "She won't even know we're laughing," and all four of them shook with silent laughter, while their phones stayed trained on me, hungry for a reaction. I froze. Not because I didn't want to fight, but because humiliation hits your nervous system like a stun gun, and suddenly you're not thinking. You're just trying not to fall apart in public. And Derek finally looked up, and he did this thing that made my skin crawl. He exaggerated his mouth movements like he was mocking me while pretending he was being clear, and he said slow and dramatic, "So you're really deaf," and I wanted to throw my water in his face. I wanted to stand up and walk out. But another part of me, the part that's been trained by years of being treated like, "I'm too sensitive," whispered. "Don't make a scene, don't give them content, don't let them frame you as the crazy one." And then Derek leaned back and spoke louder, not for me, for his friends, for the camera, for the performance. "This is wild, man," he said, and then he said it smiling like he was proud of himself. "She can't even hear how pathetic this is," and even though I didn't hear the words, I saw every syllable. I saw the cruelty in the shape of his mouth. I saw his friends lift their phones higher, and I felt that old familiar feeling, like being trapped behind glass while the world points and laughs. And then as I felt my face starting to break, a man appeared beside our table, and it was so sudden it was like the scene cut to a different movie. Tall, dark hair, sharp suit, the kind of calm you only see in people who are used to being obeyed. And he didn't look at me first. He looked at Derek with eyes like stone, and he said clearly, "Get up." Derek blinked like he didn't understand his line, "What?" And the man repeated it without raising his voice, "Get up." Derek tried to laugh it off, rude. "Who are you?" And the man pulled out his wallet, threw a stack of bills on the table like he was slamming down a final answer, and he said, "That's twice what your friends paid you. Take it and get out of this woman's sight." And the energy in the room changed instantly, because bullies are brave when they think they're safe, and they shrink fast when someone bigger refuses to play along. Derek grabbed the money so fast it was almost comical, slid out of the booth, muttered something I didn't catch, and hustled away, and his friends scrambled after him, phones disappearing, laughter dying. And suddenly, I wasn't the spectacle anymore they were. And the man turned to me, and his expression softened in a way that made my throat tighten. He pulled out his phone, typed, and turned the screen toward me so I could read it easily. "I'm sorry, that should never happen. Are you okay? Would you mind if I sat with you for a minute?" No pressure. And that no pressure part hit me harder than anything, because he wasn't trying to collect gratitude. He was asking permission, like I was a person, not a project. I typed back with shaking fingers, "Thank you, you didn't have to do that." And he typed back immediately, "Yes, I did," then added, "Gabriel, I was waiting at the bar for a meeting. I saw what was happening, and I couldn't watch it." I stared at him, trying to find the catch, because when you've been treated like a joke enough times, you start waiting for the punchline. But there wasn't one, just a man who looked genuinely angry on my behalf, like my dignity mattered. And I typed, "Imbriana," and he smiled, a real one. Not pity, not performative. And he typed, "Can I buy you dinner, or at least sit here so you're not alone?" And I typed back, "You already paid off my terrible date, so fine, but only if you let me buy you a drink." And he laughed. I couldn't hear it, but I could see it in his shoulders, and the way his face lit up, and he typed, "Deal, but I'm still buying dinner because I was supposed to meet someone, and they canceled, and honestly, I'd rather eat with you." From there it was easy. In a way I almost forgot existed. He made sure the waiter stood where I could see his lips. He adjusted his seat so I had a clear view of his face. He didn't get impatient when I typed. He didn't act like communication was a burden. And little things like that sound small until you've lived without them, until you've sat across from people who treat accessibility like an inconvenience. We traded stories through text and slow, clear speech. He told me he was a single dad, 6-year-old daughter named Sophie. His wife had died of cancer 3 years earlier, and he spoke about it with that quiet ache that doesn't beg for sympathy. It just exists, and I told him about losing my hearing at 16, about how music became memory, how ordering coffee became a strategy game, how clients sometimes disappeared the second they learned I was deaf. And he typed, "That's their loss. You work twice as hard just to be taken seriously. That makes you twice as good." And I swear my throat tightened because I wasn't used to anyone calling my struggle a strength. When the check came, I reached for it out of instinct, pride, survival, and he covered my hand gently and typed, "You can get the next one." And I raised an eyebrow. Like next one, and he typed, "I'd like to see you again, if you're interested." And my heart did this stupid little flip, because I had spent years convincing myself. Love was for other people, not for me, not with my silence, not with my walls. And I almost said no, just to stay safe. But then I thought about how he stepped in when no one else did, how he looked at me like I was human. And I typed, "Yes, I'd like that." Over the next week, we texted constantly, good morning messages, jokes, pictures of Sophie making funny faces. And when we met for coffee the following Saturday, he was already there with Sophie, coloring at the table. And the second she saw me, she gasped and said something that made Gabriel blush, and he typed, "She says you're pretty, I'm sorry." And I typed back, "Don't apologize, she's right." And Sophie giggled like she understood the whole exchange. Then Gabriel did something that melted me. He lifted his hands and signed hello, stiff and imperfect but sincere, and he typed, "I've been practicing." "Don't laugh," and I signed back. I would never, and I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. Sophie wanted to learn signs, so I taught her hello, thank you, beautiful. And she practiced like it was the most important thing in the world. And when she signed beautiful back to me correctly, she beamed like she had just won a trophy. Then she hugged me and said, "I like you." And I realized something dangerous. My walls were cracking. A few weeks later, Gabriel asked if I would consider redesigning his company website, because it was embarrassingly bad. And he showed it to me, and I physically winced. It looked like it was stuck in 2010. And he typed, "I'm not offering charity. I need someone talented. You're talented." And that mattered because I needed the work, but I also needed my pride intact. And once I started the project, everything shifted, regular meetings at his office, Sophie coloring beside us, Gabriel learning more sign language week by week, not for applause, for real communication. And little by little, I went from feeling like an outsider to feeling like I belonged in their world. Then came the moment that changed my career. I got invited to display my work at a local gallery showcase, and I was terrified, like shaking. Terrified, because galleries mean crowds. Crowds mean fast conversations, and fast conversations mean missing things. And I texted Gabriel, "What if nobody comes? What if they hate my work?" And he texted back, "People will come and Sophie and I will be there, and we will stand in front of your favorite piece and tell everyone you're brilliant." And I laughed because it's an art show, there are no rows. And he replied, "Then we will hover aggressively in love." The night of the gallery show, I stood by my pieces with my stomach in knots. And then I saw them walk in Sophie, in a little green dress, holding daisies, Gabriel in a dark suit. And Sophie ran to me and signed, "For you, because artists need flowers." And I nearly cried on the spot. People came. People typed questions. Some tried to sign. Gabriel stayed near, but didn't overshadow me. And one man stood in front of my biggest piece, a city nightscape where the lights formed patterns like music. And he looked at me and said slowly, so I could read it, "The way you visualize sound through light, it's like you're showing us how you experience the world." And that one sentence felt like someone finally understood the part of me I've had to explain my whole life. By the end of the night, I sold pieces, got business cards, and when I turned around, Gabriel was buying the unsold work, and I shook my head hard like, no, absolutely not, and he signed. Still a little clumsy, but clear enough. I want it in my office, I want to see your work every day, and I typed, "That's a lot of money," and he typed back, "It's an investment in an artist I believe in," and then softer. And selfishly, I like looking at things that remind me of you. On the drive home, Sophie fell asleep in the back seat, and Gabriel walked me to my door, and in the hallway light, he looked nervous in a way I hadn't seen yet, and he signed. "I need to tell you something, then." He spoke slowly, so I could read his lips. "I'm falling in love with you." And my whole body went hot and cold at once because I felt it too, but I was scared to name it, and I signed back, hands shaking. "I'm falling too, and it scares me." And he smiled and signed. "Good walls have doors. You don't have to tear them down, just let me in." And I swallowed and signed. "You're already in." And he asked before he kissed me like consent was as natural to him as breathing. And when he kissed me, it wasn't a movie scene, it was gentle, steady, like he was proving I wasn't a joke to him, I was a person worth slowing down for. Now here comes the part that makes people argue. Because a few months later, my brother Jerome sent me a link to a new video, and my blood went cold until I clicked it, and it wasn't me. This time it was Derek and his friends at another restaurant, trying the same stunt on another girl, except someone recognized them, someone recorded them back, and the internet turned on them like a wildfire. The comments were brutal, their faces were everywhere, and Jerome texted Karma finally found these clowns, and I stared at it, feeling this complicated mix of satisfaction and anger, because sure, part of me wanted them to taste what they served, but another part of me kept thinking, why did it take the internet for them to face consequences? Why wasn't my pain enough in real time? Why did it take a stranger like Gabriel stepping in to stop it? And what about the times no one steps in? What about the girl sitting in the booth, reading lips, and realizing she the punchline while the whole room pretends not to see? Because that's the truth, the hardest part of that night wasn't Derek, it wasn't the cameras. It was the feeling that everyone around me could see what was happening and still chose comfort over courage. And Gabriel was the exception, the person who refused to look away. And because of that, my life split into a before and after. Before, I was always bracing for cruelty after I started believing slowly that maybe kindness wasn't a rare accident. Maybe it was something you could choose and build and keep choosing, even when you're scared. So I'm asking you seriously, if you were in that restaurant, if you saw a group of adults humiliating someone for a disability and filming it, like entertainment, what would you do? Would you step in and would you say something? Would you at least sit with the person being targeted so they weren't alone, or would you look away and tell yourself it's not your business and be honest? Because I've done the looking away before too, out of fear, out of not wanting trouble. And I hate that about myself, and I'm trying to be better. Drop a comment and tell me where you land on it. Do you think the internet backlash was justice or too far? Do you think people like Derek deserve public consequences, or do you think the real issue is the crowd that stays silent? And if you've ever witnessed something like this or lived through it, tell your story, because the more we talk about it, the harder it is for cruelty to hide in plain sight.